Cheese and Fresh Fruit, The True Match Made in Heaven, an argumentative essay by the Lemon King. Too long have the tastes of man been fixated on chocolate and peanut butter and jelly, and pancakes and syrup. Too long have food enjoyers worldwide enjoyed simple texture blends of these so-called matches. Such tastes have persisted for far too long. The will of mankind is strong, and their unrelenting enthrallment of repeated processes and ideas stagnant. However, it is time that we, as a species, face the facts. There are better pairs out there. Flavor palettes are diverse in foreign concepts. Texture blends are more than simple monotony and repetition. Humans turn away from these facts because they are unwilling to delve into the unknown, possibly even afraid. They are doggedly determined to avoid foods that simply do not seem to blend. It is for this reason that we are also unwilling to expand our tastes and witness the true power and chaos of food blends that seem foreign to us. Many food combinations exist that haven't already been mentioned previously, such as chicken and waffles, cookies and cream, ice cream and pie. The list goes on for too long. The truth is, these flavors and textures do work well together, but the question really is, which flavors complement other flavors? When food enjoyers ask this question, the playing field shifts. The field shifts yet further when food enjoyers also ask, what tastes complement each other? The fact is, flavor and taste are not synonymous. Flavor is a specific flavor of a food, such as lemon, thyme, cinnamon, apple. However, while there are virtually endless flavors, there are only 7 known tastes that can be perceived by humans: sweet, sour, pungent, bitter, umami, astringent, and salty. With these tastes, many flavors can be made, but the point about these is, there are some that cooperate, and some that are not compatible. In addition to this compatibility issue, there is also a need for balance. For instance, if a food is too salty, it can be balanced with sour taste. If a food is too bitter, it can be balanced by using sweet tastes. This idea of balance is one of the key ideas in determining what the scientifically most compatible foods are. Before we continue, it is important to lay out how to balance which tastes are in abundance in a dish. According to cordonbleu.edu, sweetness will counteract bitter and sour flavors. Saltiness counteracts bitterness. Secondly, it also enhances most other flavors present in the dish. Bitterness is critical to balance. The taste of grapefruit, dark greens, or beer can help to cut through the richness or sweetness of a meal. Acidity works wonders in balancing a dish, adding liveliness and counteracting sweetness and heat. And umami usually cannot be balanced out or used to balance, but rather to accent. Flavor balance is difficult and strange, but certainly manageable. Tastes and flavors are fairly complex, but there is also a matter of texture, which is entirely different and quite difficult to pinpoint as well. There are 5 main textures, according to vernaverona.com. There are watery, firm, crunchy, creamy, and chewy. Unlike tastes, textures are usually set and cannot be balanced. The texture of a product is usually determined when it has been prepared, not before you eat it. This is why you cannot make bread any less chewy after you bake it, or make crackers less crunchy after they come out of the oven. There are some exceptions, such as steaming vegetables to make them less firm, or adding coarse foods to a creamy stew to make it less creamy. Just like tastes, there's compatibility between textures as well. Watery is best with crunchy or firm, creamy is best with crunchy, and firm is best with crunchy as well. It is a tad strange how all of these examples paired well with crunchy textures. It is best to remember to maintain balance with both flavor and texture to get an optimal food pair. As an example, we can look further into the tastes involved in one of the arguably highest regarded pair of foods, chocolate and peanut butter. According to berrykalba.com, the ways to describe the flavor of the types of chocolate are as follows. White chocolate is sweet, as is milk chocolate, and dark chocolate is sweet and bitter, with a hint of sour in it. This difference is caused by the ingredients in the chocolate types. White chocolate is created by mixing cocoa butter, sugar, milk solids, and occasionally vanilla. According to bonappetit.com, milk chocolate is produced using cocoa, sugar, and milk. Meanwhile, dark chocolate is produced with cocoa butter, and sometimes sugar, without any of the butter and milk found in milk chocolate. The difference in textures and tastes of all these different types of chocolates is of utmost importance. Taste-wise, dark chocolate is the most versatile, while in texture, milk is the go-to. Now in practice, milk chocolate and creamy peanut butter are usually paired. Peanut butter has a creamy texture and is a flavorless neutral, with a slight bias towards sweetness. Milk chocolate is sweet, slightly, but not too noticeably, bitter, and has a crunchy and creamy texture. In this case, there's too much overlap. Peanut butter is creamy, and so is milk chocolate. Peanut butter is a flavorless neutral, which means that it is waste of flavor. This also indicates that it can work well with any taste on the taste spectrum, so neutral sweet is a perfect fine in this case. Jesus. As you can see, this food pair doesn't yield a completely unique result. All the textures in peanut butter are chocolate, and the flavor of peanut butter isn't exactly... cut. All the textures in peanut butter are in chocolate, and the flavor of peanut butter isn't strong enough to warrant considering it in this case. Many examples that have already been mentioned can be discredited by using this method. Syrup is watery, pancakes are creamy and chewy, and syrup is sweet, and pancakes are neutral. There's hardly any diversity. This is why, instead of looking for similar foods, we should look for different foods with a lot of diversity, and also balance. For instance, if we ignore balance, we could eat something like steak drenched in caramel. There's no compatibility or balance in this example. Caramel is crunchy and Caramel is creamy and sweet, while steak is umami and chewy. This is why it's important to focus on all aspects of the food pairs we eat. There's a specific method that can be employed for such situations, and it's described in examples in the next paragraph. Let's take a generic example like celery. Celery is a crunchy vegetable with watery and firm textures. It has a bitter bias to its taste and mostly nothing else. Keeping in mind the idea of balance and canceling, celery needs something that has a sweet bias to it. Celery and caramel are not a pair that many people would consider, but celery and peanut butter are. Why? Well, peanut butter is creamy and has a sweet bias, whereas caramel is less creamy and has more sweet than peanut butter. This interrupts the balance of the two foods, so the best pair for celery is peanut butter. Another example of this method in action can be done with a more difficult food, oranges. Oranges have a plethora of tastes, which makes them more difficult to pair with other foods. These tastes are sweet, sour, and a hint of bitter. This means we need to find foods that have bitter, salty, and sweet in them as well. Not only that, but because of its watery texture, oranges need something on the firm end of the texture scale, being firm, crunchy, or mealy. Of course, the only candidate for the best food pair to oranges is milk chocolate. Milk chocolate is sweet with a hint of bitter and can be salted if need be. The beauty of the pair is that milk chocolate is creamy and crunchy, which aids it in an ideal candidate, which makes it an ideal candidate for oranges pair, texture-wise. Considering all the balance and affirming flavors, orange and chocolate is a solid pair. The main point of this essay was to highlight cheese and fresh fruit, but to figure out what makes these two work well together is exactly why we had to lay out a basis for the argument, hence the last two pages of this essay. Now that a basis has been laid down, the rest of the essay will be about praising cheese and fruit combinations, while also explaining why other combinations fall short. Cheese is a catch-all term for any food created by coagulating the milk protein called casein. Though there are many unique flavors of cheese and many textures thereof, this diversity creates a wonderful platform for experimenting with what should theoretically taste well together. Not only that, but there are many, many types of fruit with varying textures, sweetness, and tartness. For this reason, there is a cheese for every fruit. An example of this is a simple sharp cheddar, bitterness with a tang, and grapes, sweetness with fairly low acidity. The flavors are bitter and sweet, as well as sour and sweet. These counteract each other, creating a balance. Cheese is fairly dry, so having a watery grape to counteract the dryness is essential. So grapes and sharp cheddar are the best match they can be. The method used here is not always so cut and dry. Like it was previously mentioned, each and every fruit should have a match of cheese. So what cheese matches with the lemon? The method still applies here, certainly, but it requires having a more open mind than some other matches. So lemons are sour, with some bitter and a faint but noticeable flash of sweetness to it. This means that there is a sweetness conventional in cheese. This means that the sweetest conventional cheese is the only cheese that has potential to pair well with it. Gouda is a good candidate in this case. According to WisconsinCheese.com, aged Gouda has a rich, nutty, caramelly taste, often reminiscent of butterscotch. As far as cheeses go, this is likely one of the sweetest types, so the crumbly, dry texture of the Gouda is counteracted by the wateriness of the lemon, and the sweetness is counteracted by sourness and bitterness. The best fruit to match lemon may very well be Gouda cheese because it has one of the sweeter tastes of the cheeses. Many pairs of foods often fall short on the mark that cheese and fresh fruit make. This is likely because of the fact that there are more cheeses than peanut butter, and perhaps more fruit than chocolate. The diversity in the tastes and textures of cheese mean that they can be paired with many of the diverse textures and tastes of fruit, generating strong matches and better tastes. While opposing pairs focus on reaffirming the present tastes in a food, such as chocolate and peanut butter, both having hints of sweetness, cheese and fruit pairs focus on balance, having unique tastes and melding flavors together. As far as food goes, new flavors and experiences are important, and being open to new ideas is just as critical. So because cheese and fresh fruit keep your options open, give you a unique taste experience, and are so texturally diverse, they are the best food pair that can possibly exist.